Hi, I welcome you all to Caroline's Online Academy. This is the first of the many videos that I'll be uploading on the topic Introduction to Accounting, which will help you understand accountancy better, understand the basics of accountancy. Before we go into the video, I have a small announcement to make for my viewers who are comfortable in Tamil. உங்களுக்கு தமிழ் நல்லா தெரியும் அப்படின்னா அண்ட் தமிழ் புரிஞ்சுக்க முடியும் அப்படின்னா இதே வீடியோ வந்து தங்கிலீஷ் வெர்ஷனில் இருக்குது. அந்த தங்கிலீஷ் வெர்ஷனோட வீடியோ வந்து நீங்கள் பாருங்கள். இந்த வீடியோட தங்கிலீஷ் வெர்ஷன் வேணும் அப்படின்னா இதே டைட்டில் வீடியோ டைட்டிலில் வந்து இங்கிலீஷ் அப்படின்ற வேர்டை எடுத்துகிட்டு தமிழ் அப்படின்னு போட்டு சர்ச் பண்ணுங்கள். இல்லைனா வீடியோவோட தம்ப்நெயிலில் பாட்டமில் தமிழ் அப்படின்னு பெருசாக எழுதியிருக்கும். ஸோ தமிழ் எழுதியிருக்கிறது தான் தங்கிலீஷ் வெர்ஷன் ஆஃப் தி வீடியோ. ஒரே இங்கிலீஷ் மீடியம் அக்கௌண்டன்சி தங்கிலீஷில் இருக்கும். அண்டர்ஸ்டுட்? Okay. Now, accounting is something that we come across on a day-to-day basis. Like it is happening everywhere around us. Everyone is accounting for things in some way or the other. Your mom is accounting. The shopkeeper, the petty shop owner near your in your street is accounting. A person sitting in a huge company is accounting. So the question, but if you ask a layman as to what accounting is, ask someone, layman in the sense someone who does not know anything about accounting or someone who has not studied accounting, they wouldn't probably understand what a person sitting in an office is doing in computer and all that. They wouldn't know like what steps that accountant in a huge company does, which is in order to prepare the books of accounts that he ends up preparing. Understood? They think of that as some kind of a complex process. Okay, they think of that as something that is different from what they are doing. But when you look at it, it is not that difficult. It is not that complex. It is very simple. It is something that can be explained in like 5 minutes or so. So stay with me for the next 5 minutes. I'm going to explain what an accountant does and what accounting actually means, and we're going to define accounting. Okay, with the help of a small story. And the hero of that story is Sourav Ganguly, or Dada as he fondly called. Okay, not in this world. In this world, he's a cricketer. In a parallel world, Sourav Ganguly, Dada, who's not a cricketer and an unemployed youth, wins a lottery for rupees 1 crore rupees. 1 crore. Okay, so Dada wants to invest that 1 crore in something which will give him continuous return for a long period of time. So after doing a lot of research, he believes that if he starts a tea shop, it would help him earn continuous returns. Okay. Now this tea shop, he doesn't want to stand there in the tea shop and prepare cups of teas and all that. So he wants to employ people to work in the tea shop. As he's a crorepati now, he does not want to do that. And for that purpose, he hires 3 of his juniors who are also unemployed. Okay, and they are Dhoni, Kohli, and Rohit. Okay. Now Dhoni, Kohli and Rohit are unemployed youth, and they are really grateful that Dada has allowed them to work in their shop. So after Dada set up the tea shop and gave him the keys, they were like really grateful, and they told him that they will work really hard and make him proud, and by the end of the day they will be able to give him a lot of money in return. And they do as promised, and they work really hard. They sell a lot of tea as it's a busy area. More than 400 cups of tea gets sold every hour, and these guys run out of supplies, and they purchase new supplies like tea leaves, sugar, milk and all that from suppliers. Sometimes they pay cash for what they purchase, sometimes they tell the supplier that they will pay later. And also some people purchase tea or in bulk quantity, and they tell that they will pay later to them, and the rest of the customers actually pay money then and there. And a lot of such things take place. All of these things can be called as transactions. Transactions means, as of now, you can understand transaction as some kind of an exchange of benefit from one party to another. Okay, like I am giving you money and you are giving me tea. So there is an exchange of benefit from one person to another, right? So that is a transaction. So a lot of such transactions takes place. As I told you, like if 400 transactions take place in 1 hour, then you can imagine you can calculate the number of transactions that would have happened in 8 hours. But then Dhoni, Kohli and Rohit are up to it, and they work really hard, and they make all the sales that they actually that one can possibly make in all the 8 hours. And at the end of the day, they're eagerly waiting for Dada to come back so that they can present him with the results of the business, give him all the money that they earned for Dada. And Dada comes back and he's happy to see the cash box full, and he asks the three of them, we'll call them trio hereafter. He asks the trio like, okay, how many cups of tea did you people sell, and how much of tea leaves did you purchase? How much are we supposed to pay the suppliers for tea leaf, sugar and milk and all? Have we paid them all, or are we supposed to pay them? And if customers had purchase things saying they'll pay later, then do you know who all have to pay us later and all that? Now, Dhoni, Kohli and Rohit don't have answers for any of these questions, obviously, because they were busy working, and so they did not make note of all these things, and they don't know how to answer Dada. They thought they'll be able to remember all of that, but at this point of time when Dada asked the question, they're not able to recollect what happened throughout the day because they were all busy working at that point. So Dada is a little disappointed. He tells him like, see, though you made a lot of money, I don't know how much of this money that I can actually take home, because I don't know how much is going to require the next day, how much you would need the next day. And we don't know who all have to pay us, or to who all do we have to pay. So what I would recommend tomorrow is when I come back in the evening the next day, I want answers for all of these questions. So do something about it. And Dada leaves. So Dhoni, Kohli and Rohit, the trio, sit and discuss on what can be done. And Rohit tells him that, you see, we forgot because we could not recollect, we could not answer Dada because we could not recollect. And in order to overcome that, Dhoni, as you're sitting in the cash box, I'll buy a notebook and give you. You keep recording every transaction that takes place as the transaction takes place. So that way we'll know that we'll have a record of whatever has taken place. So when Dada comes, we can look into that notebook and tell him what has taken place. We can give him all the answers that he wants. Understood? And they're satisfied with that solution, and all the three of them go to sleep and open the shop the next day. And similarly, a lot of sales takes place the next day. But this time, Dhoni records everything that is happening in a notebook. One by one. After, as and when every transaction takes place, he writes it down in a notebook. Like in one hand, he's giving cash, purchasing things, and on the other hand, he's writing it down. Understood? And so today evening, the next day's evening, the second day evening, all the three of them are eagerly waiting for Dada to come, because this time they have also worked hard and also have answers for Dada's question in the form of the record that they have in the notebook. Okay, so Dada comes and asks like, how many cups of tea have you people sold? And this time Rohit tells him that, Dada, don't worry, we have a record of everything, just give me 2 minutes. And he starts going through the notebook in which he is recorded. But then it has not been recorded in any order. It has only been recorded in the chronological order. Chronological in the sense, in the order in which they took place on the basis of time. Okay, the first transaction that took place had been recorded first, and the second has been recorded second. Okay, so the tea transactions in which cups of tea have been sold are there in the transaction that have been recorded, but you'll have to search to find out the number of cups of tea sold. Okay, you'll have to search all the transactions that correspond to sales of tea, and then you have to add them up in order to answer Dada. And there are like 40 pages of record there in that notebook. Okay, so Rohit goes through the transactions one by one through the pages, and by the time he reaches third page, Dada is like gets impatient, and then he tells Rohit to just stop doing what he is doing, and he asks him like, why are you doing all this? Do you think it is possible for you to answer all my questions by going through all of these transactions one by one? Like in one page you have 100 transactions, and then you filled up 40 pages through the day, and there are like 4,000 transactions, and for each and every question you will have to go through all the 4,000 transactions to come up with an answer. So I don't think you will be able to answer my questions today also. Okay, so I just asked you about, for instance, if I asked you about the cups of tea, what if I asked you about vada? Will you go through all the 4,000 transactions one by one, all the 40 pages one by one? And the trio understand their mistakes. They understand that this is not feasible solution, or this is not something that can actually solve their main issue there. The main issue there is giving Dada the information that he wants. Okay, and just by recording that in a notebook, they would not be able to do that on a timely manner. So Dada will have to stay the whole night in order to find answers for all his questions, and if he stays a whole night, the next day they will not be able to work. So this is not a very good solution, but still it's some solution. It is something is better than nothing, right? So this is some solution. So Dada tells him that, again he scolds him, and he tells him please do work hard. please think of some solution that will actually solve the problem, not any solution. And he leaves. So Dhoni, they try to sit and think on what can be done. So they now understand the fact that even if they simply record it, it is of no use, because at the end of the day, when Dada asks how many cups of tea they sold, they don't have an answer for it. No, if they want to have an answer for it, Kohli tells them that if you want an answer for that, we have to write the sales of tea transaction in a different notebook, purchase of tea leaves in a different notebook, purchase of sugar in a different notebook, purchase of milk in a different notebook. So for every kind of transaction, every category of transaction should be recorded in a separate notebook. So before Dada comes, he'll have around like 30 minutes. So what we can do is, we can add up we can like make a total of all the transactions in specific notebooks, and we can keep that total ready. So when Dada comes, we can just open up those notebooks and give the answers. Now Dhoni is like, what you're saying is correct, but do you think I'll be able to write in 40 notebooks and also make sales and all that? That is going to be really difficult, because even writing in one notebook was very difficult while I was handling the transaction, and at the same time I was writing in my notebooks. So that is actually very difficult for me, is what Dhoni told. So the three of them decide on doing something. Like what they decide is, we'll first record it in the notebook just like how you have recorded it till now. Okay. In one notebook, you write all the transactions. So every hour, we'll take a 10-minute break on a rotational basis, and whatever you have recorded in that 1 hour, we'll classify them, we'll categorize them. Like tea sale transactions, we'll put in the tea notebook. Purchase of tea leaves transaction, we'll put it in the purchase of tea leaves notebook. And sugar transactions, we'll put in sugar notebook. And similarly, we'll just classify all the transactions that have taken place over the past hour in 2 different notebooks. So that way you will not find it, you will not have the problem of having to write in all the different notebooks at the same time. You will only be writing in one notebook. But after every hour, when we classify them, we'll also have record of each category of transaction, each type of transaction. We'll have record of each type of transaction. And all the 3 of them think that is a really good idea, and they should go about doing that. Okay. And they're eagerly waiting for Dada to come back the next day, and Dada comes back, and they start the business, they do what they planned, like they record it in one notebook, and then every hour one of them takes a break and just classifies or categorizes those transactions and writes it in different category notebooks. Understood? So they have like 30-40 notebooks. And now Dada comes and asks them like, how many cups of tea have been sold? And immediately Kohli takes out the tea notebook, opens that page, and tells him the total number of tea that has been sold. Because they have classified from the main notebook, they have classified it and written all the tea transactions in the tea notebook. Similarly, they have answers for how much of sugar was purchased, how much of tea leaf was purchased, and all that. Now Dada asked him a question like, so what is the total profit that we have earned? And how much money do we owe? He starts asking the next level of questions, okay? Because he wants to know that also. He wants to know how much profit has been they've been able to make in one day. He also wants to know like how much of money does a business owe to people. So in order to understand like how much he can take back home and how much he has to leave in the business and all. So, but in order to get answers for what is the total amount of money owed by the business to others, these guys will have to go through all the 30 notebooks to find out all the credit purchases. Credit in the sense, purchases when credit purchases means when you purchase goods, or for instance in this case tea leaves, when you purchase tea leaves and tell that you will pay money for that later in a day or a couple of days or 30 days, whatever, at a later point of time, then you are said to be making a credit purchase. Okay, if you purchase stuff and then you pay money right away, then you are actually making a cash purchase. Understood? So these guys, in order to find out the amount of money owed by them to various suppliers of milk, tea leaf, sugar and all that, they'll have to go through all the transaction, all the notebooks to find out the amount of total credit purchases they have made, and how much they owe to the tea supplier and how much they made to owe to the sugar supplier and all of that. Okay, that is there. That information is distributed in all of these notebooks now. We have like 2 sets of notebooks now. The one notebook in which all transactions have been recorded as they occurred, that is on the basis of time, that is in the chronological order. Hereafter I'll use the word chronological order only. okay, in the chronological order, and a set of notebooks where all of these transactions that have been recorded in the chronological order have been classified according to the type kind of transaction that is. Like if it is sales of tea, then it is written in the tea sales notebook. If it is purchase of tea leaves, it is written in the tea leaves notebook. If purchase of sugar, it is written in the purchase notebook. But they don't have a summarized version of the whole thing. Understood? So again, Dada is not able to get the complete answer to what he complete information from the three of them. Okay, he is not able to understand the business completely. So again, he tells them to think of some other solution, and then he leaves. And the next day, these guys again, the three of them sit and they want to find a solution for this. And Dhoni comes up with a solution, as he's the smartest of them. He tells them that, see, we have recorded it and distributed it in various notebooks, but the main questions in the business are like how much we owe other people, and how much of that is an asset, and how much we need to collect from other people and all. And also like what is the profit or loss we make. So in order to find profits of a business, we'll have to reduce all the expenses from the income. So some of these notebooks carry details, information regarding expenses. So what I'm going to do next is, at the end of the day, before Dada comes, I'm going to take a paper and write the balances of the expenses notebooks top, and at the bottom I'm going to write the balances of income, details of income from the income notebooks, and that total of income and the total of expense will be your profit. That will be there in a single paper. So I'm going to summarize all the expenses, balances of expenses notebooks in one paper, balance of all the income notebook in one paper, and then I'm going to find out the profit or loss and write it in that paper. Similarly, I'm going to take another paper and I'm going to put all the money that we need to collect and all of the assets that we have kept records of all of that in this notebooks, right? So I'm going to take those notebooks and write all the money that we know owe people, or the money that we need to collect people, and all of that balance I'm going to write in one paper. So when Dada asks like how much we owe others, we can just give them the info, give him the total information. Apart from this, I'm going to take another paper and write all the totals, all the balances of all the notebooks, just in case Dada has some question which is not related to any of the past two documents that I prepared. Okay, so that's what our friend Dhoni says, and that seems to be a really good solution, and all the three of them agree. And so what they do is, first, as and when transaction takes place, Dhoni records them, and every 1 hour these guys take a break and categorize those transactions according to the type of transaction and record them in different notebooks, different categories of notebooks. And then at the end of the day, before Dada comes, they summarize whatever they have written in those different kinds of notebooks in the format which will help them answer all of Dada's questions. Understood? And that, my friends, is accounting. Okay, that is what we are doing in accounting. Now, in order to explain this, in order to put this in a proper definition and help you remember it, we'll take up the definition of accounting. And the definition of accounting starts like this: accounting is an art of recording. That's the first thing that Dhoni did, right? He recorded all the transactions in one notebook, and then classifying those transactions. And at the end of every hour, what these guys did was they took all of the transaction that happened in the hour and then categorized it according to category. They divided it, which is nothing but classifying. Okay, and then summarizing. Though they have classified it, in order to give information to Dada, the kind of information that Dada requires, they had to summarize whatever they have classified according to what Dada would expect. Okay, so the third step in accounting is summarizing. Now, what did these guys classify, record, and summarize? They classified, recorded, and summarized transactions. Transaction means giving and taking. Okay. Now, Dada came and scolded Kohli, Rohit, and all. That is also a transaction. Dada is giving emotion, and Kohli is receiving emotion, right? So, would these guys have recorded that transaction also in the books of accounts? No, they would not record that. They only record transactions that are of financial character. Financial character means that is concerned with the finance, that is concerned with money or money related transactions only they will be writing. Okay, and how they will measure these transactions is, like when you want to measure someone's height, you use centimeter and all that, centimeter, meters. When you want to measure someone's weight, you use kilogram as the measuring scale, right? Now in this case, how these guys measure is, they'll measure it in terms of money. Like for instance, when Dada asks like what is the total sales of tea, you're not going to tell the number of cups of tea that you sell. Okay, you're going to say that tea was sold for like so and so much rupees, so many rupees. For instance, like 10,000 rupees I sold tea. So every transaction we are going to measure it in terms of the amount of money and record it in these books of accounts. Understood? And why do we do all these things? We are doing all of this recording, classifying, and summarizing in order to interpret, that is to understand what is happening in the accounts, and then to communicate it to Dada. In our case, Dada is stakeholder. I'll explain stakeholder in a detailed manner in the next class. To communicate it to the stakeholders for rational decision making, so that Dada, the stakeholder in this case, will be able to make decisions on whether to invest more in the tea shop, or to remove or to withdraw investment from the tea shop, or if he has to make more tea, or if he has to increase the price of tea or not. All of these decisions Dada has to make as the owner of the business, as the stakeholder. Stakeholder is a person who's getting affected by how the business is performing. Understood? So for understanding all of that, Dada needs to make these decisions, and for him he needs information like this. Okay, so basically accounting is, in a business, a lot of transactions take place, and some of those transactions are of financial character. Transactions mean giving and taking of something. Transactions of financial character means giving and taking of economic benefits. Now, this economic benefit is transactions of financial character. Understood? As of now, in simple terms, you understand it as giving and taking of money. Understood? Or money, or money's worth. Money's worth is tea leaf is something that is money's worth, right? Okay. And you take those transactions and you measure them in terms of money. Like how much did you purchase? What is the total purchase of tea leaves? Then if you measure it in terms of money and say that I purchased tea leaves for 20,000 rupees. It might be 10 kilograms of tea leaves, but when you say, you would actually say it and measure it in terms of money and say it. Okay, so you take transactions, you measure them in terms of money, and then you record those transactions in a notebook. After you record them, you classify them according to the category of the transactions. And after you have classified them, you summarize them in the manner in which they can be presented to the stakeholders, so that they'll understand what is happening in the business. So as accounting is something that helps you understand what is happening in the business, accounting is known as the language of business. And this is what an accounting does, whether he is in a petty shop or in a large company like Reliance Industries or whatever. They record, classify, and summarize transactions of financial character in terms of money, and they interpret and communicate that to the stakeholders for rational decision making. The notebook in which they record is called the journal, and the notebook in which they classify is called the ledger, and the notebook in which they summarize is called the trial balance. And they use the financial statements to communicate to the stakeholders. Now, who are these stakeholders? Is it only the owner of the business, or does it include someone else? I'm saying that it also includes the common man or the general public. Now, how are general public stakeholders to the business? Who are internal stakeholders and external stakeholders? Now, what are the objectives of account? Why are we doing all of these things? To understand all of that, I'll be explaining all of, watch my next video, and I'll explaining all of that in my next video. Understood? So I hope I have answered all the questions that we had in the beginning of the video, and I hope we'll be able to explain accounting in a better manner to the people who don't understand it further when they come and ask you what accounting is. Okay, so see you all in the next video, where I'll explain the objectives of accounting and the meaning of the word stakeholders. Bye.